In 2018, an American missionary tried to go to an island illegally by bribing local fishermen. He ended up being shot and killed by bow and arrow. All of these issues are the reason why North Sentinel Island, off the coast of India, is a restricted zone by the Indian Navy. Hi, this is Colin from the History Pilgrim. Today we cover the fascinating stories of uncontacted tribes. It is extremely strange, with the massive globalization of Earth, a planet where more humans have access to the internet than to clean drinking water, that there are still entire tribes who are completely unaware or live lives extremely far removed from modern civilization. One can only imagine what these people think when they see an airplane in the sky, or how they would perceive a computer. In many ways, these tribes are similar to an endangered bird species. These people are reminders that there are still humans whose culture and lifestyle remain untouched by the globalization, which has connected the Earth in the last century. One might wonder how such people could possibly still exist. The most obvious answer is extreme geographic isolation. While a lion's share of uncontacted tribes on Earth live in South America, North Sentinel Island is just off the coast of India, but is covered by dense rainforests, and is home to one of the last uncontacted tribes on the planet. The native people have lived on the island for tens of thousands of years. Any attempt to reach the island has led to people being attacked with bows and arrows. This led to the island being declared a restricted zone. In 2006, 2 fishermen accidentally came close to the island and were shot at and killed. Sentinel Island has gained a nickname in Indian, which translates to Forbidden Place. Strangely, in the 1970s and the 1980s, the Indian government tried to leave gifts on the island, such as coconuts, bananas, and iron tools as peace offerings. In many of the cases, the islanders would cautiously take the items before retreating back into the jungle, or sometimes return the items several days later where they were dropped off. This odd behavior of them being wary of gifts left by strangers seems to contradict their previously hostile behavior. In 1974, a documentary crew embarked on a mission to make contact with the native people, resulting in a film known as Man in Search of Man. The film aimed to document the lives of the natives and explore the possibility of peaceful interaction. The film crew was accompanied by armed police for protection and arrived by boat. The film offers videos of the native people. Additionally, there is some insight into their daily lives. The main director was spotted by people on the island and hit by bow and arrow. While he ultimately survived, it shows how risky even coming near this hostile tribe can be. There are additionally stories of visitors feeling watched by the treetops. People who have came close in boats have witnessed the native people emerging from the forest armed with bows and arrows before retreating and reappearing elsewhere. North Sentinel Island is surprisingly close to Fort Blair, which is a naval and tourism hub in India. Despite only being 22 miles away from a city of over 1 million people, the island is surrounded by coral reefs and shallow waters, which make it extremely difficult to reach by boat. The indigenous people are incredibly hostile to outsiders and attack anyone who attempts to reach them. In 1977, a significant event occurred near the island involving the ship the MV Russley. The vessel ran aground in the coral reefs near North Sentinel Island, leading to a series of hostile actions by the indigenous people. While the crew of the ship were eventually airlifted and interactions between the crew members and the islanders remained minimal, the native people were accidentally introduced to metal for the first time ever. The inhabitants began collecting and experimenting with scattered objects from the wreck. Nails, scraps of metal, and small tools that washed ashore were collected by the people, which they quickly realized they could make tools out of. Realizing that metal could be sharpened into spear tips and cutting tools far sharper than anything they already had, brought the Sentinelese into a new technological stage, thousands of years ahead of where they already were overnight. To protect the Sentinelese and preserve their isolation, we must avoid approaching them and leaving unfamiliar objects on the island, because even minor actions could have unforeseen effects on their culture, technology, and way of life. South America, which is a continent where the vast majority of the planet's remaining uncontacted people live, has huge portions covered by extremely dense jungles. The Amazon rainforest in particular is so deep, dark, and unexplored that it is one of the most mysterious regions to scientists on the planet. In much of the Amazon, incredibly dense vegetation covers nearly everything, while towering trees can reach over 150 feet tall. Endless shrubs, vines, and smaller trees stretch from the forest floor upward, which makes much of this region incredibly dark even at the height of day. Traveling short distances through the Amazon rainforest is very challenging, as it involves having to tear through thick vegetation and having to contend with endless humidity and disease-carrying insects. In addition to its incredible size is the sheer biodiversity of the Amazon. A single square mile of the Amazon can contain thousands of plant, animal, and insect species, many of which are found nowhere else on Earth. The forest is a multi-layered ecosystem, meaning so many birds, plants, mammals, and insects all inhabit a small area, while sunlight barely reaches the bottom. This means for human inhabitants, access to food, water, and shelter is tied to knowing the environment well. Deep in these environments are where the majority of the world's remaining uncontacted people live. We know so little about these tribes that their cultural lives remain largely a matter of educated guesswork. What religious beliefs they have, their languages, and what they do remain a complete mystery. Much of what we know about these tribes comes not from direct contact, which is intentionally avoided to protect the tribe's health and culture, but from satellite images. The Brazilian government has established zones around several of these tribes, which are illegal to cross. We do know that smoke appears commonly from their villages, which might hint at using smoke for ceremonial purposes. Yet their cultural practices remain entirely unknown. It is unclear whether or not they have any spiritual leaders, how they interpret weather and wildlife, and if they've come into contact with other remote tribes. One thing that is possible, but we have no way of knowing, is if cannibalism is still practiced by these remote groups of people. Something that has been documented in the past by remote tribes in areas with extremely limited food. Despite their isolation, there have been rare cases of other humans stumbling upon these Brazilian tribes by accident. In one case, an aircraft was flown over one of their villages, and the people all looked up stunned and began mimicking the movements of the plane with their sticks. We can only guess what these people thought of as a completely unfamiliar object they had no knowledge of flew over their heads. Within Indonesia, there are tribes that live in the vast jungles of remote islands that can be described as semi-isolated and minimally contacted. The rugged mountains and thick rainforests provide natural barriers that have sheltered small groups from outside influence. Some of these tribes, such as the Karawai, were completely unknown to the outside world until 1974. The Karawai famously built towering treehouses high above the ground as a form of protection. While many today have minimal contact with the outside world, some even engage with tourists. Others remain so deep in the forest that they have almost no contact to modern civilization. While some of these people may trade occasionally with outsiders and are aware of the outside world, they know very little about modern society. To these people, modern society full of skyscrapers and business is completely irrelevant and almost entirely unknown about from their perspective. Within these tribes, you may see men and women living in a village wearing traditional bark cloth or body paint, carrying bows and arrows, while just a few valleys away their distant kin wear Western clothing and ride motorcycles. What makes these people so striking is they live in an odd state. They are neither wholly uncontacted, but they remain almost entirely unaffected by the culture or technology of the outside world. Today, some Karawai have participated in staged traditional events for tourists or television crews, sometimes exaggerating old rituals for extra supplies from outsiders. The Karawai remind us that the edges of the world are not so distant as they once seemed, and that even in the forests of Indonesia, the tension between tradition and transformation is as alive as it is anywhere else on the planet. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to subscribe and share with a friend. Sincerely, the History Pilgrim.